In 2000, my sister Janice was dying of cancer. She was only 49 years old. She had beat Hodgkin's disease when she was 18, but the full body radiation she received as a cure as a teenager came back as breast cancer in middle age. Jan lived in Fort Collins, Colorado, and I made many trips out to see Jan, her husband, and my 2 elementary school-aged nieces. Jan was relentless in her fight against cancer. She endured all the surgeries and chemos that the doctors recommended. She traveled to clinics in Mexico that offered alternative therapies. She just got sicker. Nothing worked. I did my best to listen to Jan a lot. As Jan approached the end, it was clear to me that there was nothing more to do, but Jan was still searching for a cure. I was a member of Unitarian Universalists of Indianapolis then, UUI, and I respected as well as was friends with the minister there, Bruce Johnson. I met with him to talk about Jan. I confided that I didn't know what to do to help. Should I just stop listening to her and help her face the reality of her imminent death? Bruce listened to my whole story, asked a lot of questions, and finally he said, "You have to listen till it hurts." "What do you mean?" I asked. "You have to listen till it hurts," he repeated. "It's great that you've been listening already, but you need to listen more, till it hurts to listen. You will want to speak or help in some other way, but don't. Listen till it hurts." The following weekend, I went back to Colorado. Jan and I had some time alone that afternoon after I arrived, and we sat and talked, or rather, Jan talked and I listened. She talked for a long time about other treatments and possibilities for possible cures. I listened, asked questions, and listened some more. I wanted to tell her it was all right to stop, but I just listened. It hurt to see her this way. Selfishly, it hurt to shut up. After a long time of listening, she paused and was silent for a while. She was thinking. "Do you think I'm trying too hard?" she asked. "Should I just accept this and get ready to die?" "I don't know, Jan. That's your decision. What do you think?" She was silent again. "I think I need to accept it. I need to get ready." We spent the next hour brainstorming and then choosing the things she wanted to get done before she died. Number 1 on the list was to write a letter to each of her 2 daughters. As it turned out, things got worse very quickly, and the letters were the only items Jan completed on her list. For 30 years, I trained adults in communication skills. The most valuable skill I believe that I taught was listening. I believe in listening because I've seen the power in my personal and professional life. I learned about listening from Dr. Thomas Gordon's books, TET, Teacher Effectiveness Training, when I was teaching, and PET, Parent Effectiveness Training, as I was a young parent. I also listened to the tapes of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits for Highly Successful People many times. And you can hear how long ago that was that I was listening to tapes. The habit that made the biggest impact in my personal and professional life was habit number 5. First slide, please. Seek first to understand and then to be understood. Seek first to understand and then to be understood. And then I learned about how to teach active listening. I believe that most people don't believe you when you say, I want to listen to you. Instead, they think you're just saying that and you're really thinking about what you want to think about. So in order to convince them of that, you need to actively do things to show you're listening. And because it's so easy for us to think about other things, we have to actively follow some guidelines to help us stay focused on them rather than focused on us. So I'd like to talk about active listening the way I did when I was doing the training. So there are 3 steps in active listening. First, opening the door. Second, repeating and paraphrasing. And third, asking questions. The purpose of all of these is to stay focused. Your focus is to be on the other person rather than on yourself. Opening the door. So the first thing you have to do is invite them in. Because I just said a minute ago, I think most people don't think you really want to listen to them. So you have to say things like, what's your point of view? I'd like to hear more. Do you want to talk about it? Well, let's sit and talk. What do you think? Any of those things to open the door and get them to start talking. And then you have to keep the door open and do things like, oh, really, I see. Nod your head. Now, these are all things we do naturally, but sometimes we forget. And I think when you do them more intentionally, it's more helpful to keep the conversation going. After we open the door, we want to repeat and paraphrase what others say. So we don't want to repeat everything. We don't want to be a parrot. I know when I was first trying this out, and Helen and I would do it, she'd say, stop repeating everything I say. I'd say, I'm trying to listen to you. She'd say, okay. But I learned to be more judicious, and you kind of get the hang of it after you do it for a while. Or paraphrase what they're saying. So the beauty of this is 2 things happen. One, you're checking, did you get it right? So if you repeat back to them what they said, and they nod their head or say yes, you know you got it. And second, they know you understand them, that they know you're listening. So now they're more likely to say more because, oh, he's actually listening to me, because I couldn't repeat it back if I hadn't listened. Then we ask questions. Questions to ask are open-ended questions, which are questions that cannot be answered with a yes or no. So, are you feeling better today? Yes or no. Not as good a question of, so how are you feeling about that? More open-ended question. And clarification questions are great questions to ask. So you were telling me that you have a real problem with your son doing his homework, getting his homework done. Is that right? Well, it's not really getting his homework done all the time. It's just Sunday nights. Like during the week, he's great, but then he parties on Friday and Saturday, and by the time we get to Sunday night, he's tired, and we always have fights about, okay, I get it, just Sunday nights. That right? Yes, it's right. Clarification question. So, to repeat, open the door, repeat and paraphrase, ask questions. And listeners play a supportive role, not a leader. You're not leading the conversation. You're trying to see where it goes and go with what the other person is saying. So, I know this is the part you all love. We're going to do some interactive stuff now and try listening. So, before we do that, I'd like to mix up groups. So if you're sitting next to a spouse or someone you know well, I'd like you to be somewhere else so you can talk to someone else. And when you get to that other place, I want you to shake hands with them so you know who you're talking to. And I'm going to give you 30 seconds to do that, so go. Ten seconds left. Okay, time's up. Just to check, does anyone not have a partner? Is there someone who doesn't have a partner? Myrna, is there anyone who doesn't have a partner besides Myrna? Okay. All right, you've got one now, Myrna, yes? Okay, we good? Great. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. First of all, each of you has to think of a problem in your life. Not very difficult, right? But however, here are the criteria. It can't be something that's too easy to solve, like I don't know what color I'm going to paint my bedroom. That's too simple of a problem. However, it cannot be catastrophic. Like when I go home from church today, I think I'm going to tell my husband I want a divorce. Too big of a deal to talk about because you're only going to have 3 minutes to talk. So somewhere in between those two, important but not catastrophic. So I'm going to give you 10 seconds to think about a problem you want to talk about with your, and 10 seconds are starting now. You don't have to tell them yet, just think about what it is, the problem you're going to talk about. Okay, time's up. If you haven't thought of one, once we get to, you can have more time to think. Okay, here's what's going to happen. So once you're going to start, I'll let you decide who's going to talk and who's going to listen first. And here's what I'd like you to do, especially if you're the person that's listening. In order to stay focused on the other person, follow these guidelines, the ones we've talked about already. First, use door openers. Second, repeat and paraphrase what you hear. And third, ask them questions. I want you to avoid, and I'm not saying these things are wrong, just for the purpose of this exercise, and because I want you to focus on the things we just talked about, avoid giving advice. Oh my God, I can't believe she's such a jerk. Don't worry, everything's going to turn out okay. You know, that reminds me of the time my son Tony. Stick with staying focused. Door openers, repeat, paraphrase, ask questions. Try to avoid as best you can the ones on the other side of the list. Got that? Yes? Okay, so I'm going to get 3 minutes to talk. Decide who's going to talk and who's going to listen. I get this up on my phone. Do you want to talk? Do you have a problem? Have you thought of one? I have one I can start with.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm going to have to watch this too as we're talking. So I've been.
Oh, go ahead. And we don't really have to. You got to concentrate on your. You got to concentrate on what you're going to do.
Okay.
You got to concentrate on.
All right. All right. I've often.
But I think Bert and Ernie went well.
Oh yeah.
You got it?
Yeah, I do. Thank you.
I went dark. I went dark. And went
I want you to take 1 minute to talk about with your partner with that expression. Take 1 minute to talk with your partner about what went on, just how you felt about that, how do you think it went, and then we're going to switch and have the other person talk and the other person listen. So you're both just talking right about how what that experience was like for just 1 minute. So how did that go? See if Amy wants to talk for the next round. Hey. So you're going to switch now. So the person that was talking is going to be the listener, and the listener is going to be the talker. Everybody got that? Same rules still apply that we asked you to do before. 3 minutes again, and go. I cut out one story, but I decided to have them do this twice, which is how I would always do it. And I thought once wasn't enough, that sometimes the second time they really get a lot more out of it. So we'll see what their comments are.
Yeah, it's like a hive of bees. They're really talking.
It is. I mean, it's so seldom somebody really listens to us this way that you can see people are enjoying it. I mean, everybody, right?
Yeah, they're really engaged.
They're really engaged.
And they're getting to know someone they didn't know before.
Yes, absolutely. I'm not going to say this, but I don't know what's going to happen with their comments, but when I did this with business people, I would get real pushback. And I felt good doing this, and I wanted to tell them what to do. We did this, then we did another one about empathic listening, which I'm not going to. Had the biggest impact was 2-day trainings. This often happens. We'd start the morning by saying, so any reflections on the day before? Someone would say, I called my wife last night and told her about this, and she said, thank God. Or someone else would say, I called up and talked to my husband, and I just listened. And he said, does something happen? That was such a great conversation. That would almost always happen.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. Sorry, I was going to look back at the thing.
2 minutes. So I'm interested to hear reflections about this. So I want you to once again talk with your partner about any reflections you've had now that you've tried this twice.
What did it feel like to be a listener? What did it feel like to be a talker? How was it different than other times you've done this? So I'm going to give you again 1 minute to talk amongst yourselves, and then we'll take about 2-3 minutes to share as a group, okay? So talk with your partner for about a minute or two. Okay. I would like to hear a few reflections about what you and your partner said. So first of all, I'd like to hear reflections from when you were talking. So you had a chance to be the talker. What did you say about when you were talking? What are reflections? How did that feel? How did it go? What do you think? Anybody?
Self-conscious.
Sorry? Self-conscious, okay. Someone else? Empathy, all right. I'm sorry?
Be able to talk.
You were able to talk?
Yeah, put things out of the chest.
Okay, you're able to get stuff off of your chest.
Just really had to focus on what the other person was saying. Just completely focused.
Okay, completely focused.
Yeah, and I think the result is that you learn more in that 3 minutes than you might have if you were out there having coffee after the service.
Okay, great. So, yes, Mary? Well heard. All right, so now, if you were the listener, how did you feel about listening that way? How did that feel to you? What did you think? Any comments?
Really hard not to give suggestions.
I'm sorry, what, Gail?
Really hard not to give suggestions.
Really hard not to give suggestions. Yes? How many people found it hard to not give advice or suggestions? Very, very difficult. Yes, Terry?
That being a good listener, you can reflect upon what that person is saying, and just it opens up your mind as far as a lot of people have the same problems and so forth, and it's just good to hear from the other person and maybe look in the mirror and say, okay.
So it opened up your mind and kind of like you're looking in the mirror. Yes?
I felt a high degree of responsibility to be present, and felt like it's pretty important to be present and listen.
Felt you had a responsibility to be present and listen.
More so than just chit-chat.
Yes, Dick?
Well, I was just thinking that your suggestion to paraphrase,
Yes?
when you go, in my whole career I was interviewing people.
Yes.
And if I wanted to change the subject, it was important to me to say something about what that person just said, so they wouldn't think I was just changing the subject.
Intimacy. Okay. Couple more. Yes? I'm sorry? You felt privileged. Wow.
Realized that we have much in common, and we wanted to carry on the conversation outside of the.
You're not allowed to do that when you go outside. It's not okay. It's John.
I felt trusted.
Trusted. You feel trusted.
Something
Okay.
trusted me with
Wow.
I think the diversity of the group makes it complicated.
Oh, yeah.
I had real young people in the group and an elder person in the group. It kind of made it difficult.
Well, interesting. Made it difficult because the different diversity of the group. Okay, that's great. We could do this for a while, but we need to move on. So I want to make a couple reflections. First of all, the myth of multitasking. I think we can multitask. I believe if you're thinking thinking about what you want to say, you're not listening. You cannot really listen to the other person and think about, oh, this is what I'm going to say to them next. Think of the next interesting story. Think of the advice. So you can't do that. Just impossible. You can do one, then the other, but can't do both at the same time. Second, deferring advice. A lot of people, and this is so typical. I mean, I've done this exercise 80, 90, 100 times with a lot of different groups. Everybody says it was hard not to give advice. My suggestion about advice, defer when you give it. I'm not saying advice is wrong, but too often we give advice too early. And it's much better to wait until the other person says, what do you think I should do? And even then you might say, well, I need to hear more, but don't give advice until they ask. Sometimes they don't want advice. Sometimes when Helen and I were having arguments, I would come in and I just wanted to vent. I don't want her to tell me what to do. I just want to yell about how stupid the other person was. And we've kind of learned to do that. You know, I said, I just want to vent. She says, okay, and I just go on and on and on. Finally, I get it out. Very helpful. Defer advice. Last one, risky reassurance. I think reassuring somebody, saying something like, don't worry, it's going to be okay, is a way to get off the hook so you don't have to really listen to them. How do you know? You know, I just found everything's going to be okay. You don't know. I'm part of a cancer support group. We meet the first Mondays of each month. Happens so many times as someone new comes into the group who has just got a diagnosis of cancer, and they are destroyed. They come in, and what the group does is just listens. Often somebody cries, talks for 25 minutes, and we all just listen. And still, with that group, someone in the group who's been in the group for a long time comes in back and something has reoccurred. It's a new diagnosis. It gives people a chance. They know in this group people are just going to listen. It is so helpful and therapeutic. We don't tell them, don't worry, it's going to be okay, because we know that's ridiculous. We can't say that. So I don't think reassurance is a good idea. Yeah?
Can I ask a question, Lynn? It seems to me that one of the practical problems of what we're saying is that, this is especially true if you're a New Yorker, but the truth of the matter is that some people will just keep talking until they are interrupted. And sometimes that's necessary. Now, you don't have to interrupt to say, you can interrupt to clarify what they're saying, but I talked to my sister, and if I didn't stop her, she would talk for 20 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
But when I do stop her, it's to, get the conversation in a different direction, or to confirm what she's saying, but isn't that a practical issue?
Yeah, I think that turns out to be a problem sometimes. Absolutely true, yeah. Here's another quote from Stephen Covey. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. Ain't it the truth? Yeah? All right, I have another story, and then we're going to finish up. And we can turn off the slides.
Also, with the intent to reply or to move on to something else.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that is an issue.
In our late 30s, Helen and I were having problems in our marriage. Finally, luckily, I listened to her entreaties, and we went together to see a counselor. At our second or third meeting, the counselor said, for our next meeting, I have some homework for you. I'd like you to go somewhere by yourselves, maybe someplace where you could take a long walk. And then, Len, I want you to listen to Helen for an hour. I don't want you to interrupt. I don't want you to make any comments. Just listen. Then at the end of the hour, I want you to repeat back to Helen as much of your conversation as you can remember. Then Helen, I want you to do the same with Len. Listen for an hour, don't make comments, don't interrupt, just listen and repeat back to him what he said. Oh my God. Impossible. An hour, she's crazy. But we wanted to stay together. So the next week, we went to Fort Bend State Park, which is near our home, and we talked. Well, not for the whole time. We listened to each other for half an hour each. We went back to our next session very proud of ourselves and told the counselor we listened just like she said, except for half an hour. And the counselor said, "That's great, good start. This week, I'd like you to listen to each other for an hour. Don't interrupt, just don't comment, just listen for an hour and repeat what you've said." "But we ran out of things to say," we pleaded. "That's okay," she said. "Just be quiet for a while and then talk again when you're ready." So we went back to Fort Bend. I listened to Helen for an hour and she listened to me. It hurt to hear how badly she felt. It hurt to be quiet and not comment for such a long time. We were learning to listen till it hurts. However, although we had been married for over 20 years, I learned things about Helen I never knew before. She said the same about me. And we both said, remarkably, that when we repeated back to each other at the end of the hour what we had heard, the other person said those things were the most important things they had said during that hour. Did that exercise in and of itself save my marriage? No. Was it part of what saved it? Yes. And for years afterwards, when we would get in trouble, we would say to each other, "Do you want to take a walk?" Code for, we need to talk. We just walk around the block. We hardly ever had an hour. Usually we just talk for 15, maybe 20 minutes. But it was incredibly helpful. We just listened, shut up, and learned to understand each other a little bit better. If we believe in the inherent worth and dignity of each person, we have to find ways to realize that belief in the real world. When I listen to you for only 1 minute, instantly diagnose your problem, and immediately give advice, I believe in my worth rather than yours. I'm saying I know better than you of how to solve your problem. Often the person speaking may not even understand the problem themselves yet. However, when I listen carefully, I'm putting my focus on your worth rather than mine. I have to be quiet and listen till it hurts. Here's one last Covey quote. He says, "The deepest need of the human soul is to be understood." The deepest need of the human soul is to be understood. For years, I thought this meant what we all wanted was for others to understand us. What I wanted was for you to understand me. Recently, I've been thinking it can go deeper. What if an even greater need for me is to understand myself? My soul's deepest need is to understand itself. A large part of my life's journey is to search for who I am. What is my place here on earth? What am I meant to do? At 77, I'm still working on it. One way to better understand myself is for another person to give me the gift of listening, to give me their time and their attention, to open the door, to invite me in, to repeat back what I say, to ask me meaningful questions that I may have ignored. Not to give their opinion, but just to listen until it hurts. It's not easy. But when I receive this gift from you, I start to see myself more clearly, understand myself, my problems, and my place in the world. What a wonderful gift to give to another. But it goes even deeper, and it's more amazing than that. The times I've really listened to someone else, no reassurances, no self-stories, no unasked for advice. When I put my ego out of the way by focusing completely on the other person, something miraculous happens. Unbidden solutions to problems I have arise in my subconscious, and I heard from some of you that happened today for you. I see myself in the other person and have significant insights about myself. I begin to fulfill my deepest need, to understand my soul. And at those times, listening doesn't hurt. It feels magnificent. Shalom, blessed be. Amen.